Hello YouTubes, you are now watching Vedius VOD review for the final game, or the final series rather, of the LEC Summer Split between G2 and Fnatic. We're going to be covering all 5 games, so thank you for checking out my channel. Now, you had the opportunity to be live watching this and joining the glorious Twitch chat where they ask engaging questions such as how many fingers do I have and what is my favorite number. If you want to be part of the Twitch community, normally I stream every single Monday at around 6 p.m. CEST. That time does vary quite a lot, so don't take my word for it. In any case, thank you for being here regardless. We're going to jump straight into the draft. So let's start off by looking at G2 versus Fnatic. So Aatrox, Twisted Fate, Rakan. The Aatrox and the Twisted Fate was what we saw a lot of last week. Aatrox to take that away from Bwipo, because the thing about Bwipo is even if you put him in a deficit on a champion like Aatrox, he can always have an impact. So they just don't want to have to deal with it. The Twisted Fate was removed because last week G2 very much struggled to deal with that, and they just didn't want to put it in the hands of Nemesis, so they removed that off the table. Now the Rakan ban was because you know that Hylissang is going to prioritize it if it is up and available, but also it suggests that G2 do not want to first pick it. Pardon me, they have something else in mind, and they don't want to... So think about it like this, right? If G2 first picks something else that isn't Xayah or Rakan, by not banning the Rakan, Fnatic then get Xayah Rakan. So if their focus is not to get one of these two, then they have to ban it away, which is why they then ban it. And it very much suggests that G2 are just saying we don't want to first pick it, and we don't want to give it the duo away to Fnatic. So Fnatic then banned Qiyana, Yasuo, and Yuumi in the last week. Expectations would be that G2 will have found ways to incorporate Yuumi into their drafts, and Fnatic are respecting that. So they're also banning away the Yuumi alongside the Yasuo and Qiyana. Qiyana I just think is very strong on the patch they're playing, which was 9.16, and I think that Yasuo bot lane is something you just have to remove from perks, which I think is going to be really exciting when we get to see at Worlds, because I think some teams will actually let it through. Fnatic and G2, then as we move into the first pick phase, we see the first pick Pyke. Now, this does come across as quite confusing, but one of the big reasons I think as to why they did it was because when they met in week 7, this was something that G2 prioritized very heavily. By grabbing themselves the Pyke, it gives Mickey a huge playmaker and it allows them to actually play through bot lane, but it also allows him to like roam around the map and like have huge impact. Pyke is a really big pick for G2, and it was something that worked exceptionally well against Fnatic, because what happens is, something that both these teams do a lot of is that they will have their support, their jungler, roam mid very early on into the game, and then they'll look to use their numbers in order to gain priority. Now the problem is, because both G2 and Fnatic do this, when they meet, they're even in numbers. So the way in which you win that 3 versus 3 is by having stronger skirmishing champions, which is something that the Pyke provides. So this is something that paid off massively for G2 the last time that they met, so they put a huge amount of value on it in game 1. So that's why they first picked the Pyke. Against any other team, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But also, one of the big things that I think G2 expected was for Fnatic not to lock in Akali and Sylas. Because last week, Fnatic didn't show any priority or value in actually playing this champion. They weren't interested in it, they didn't care about it, they didn't want to play it. So G2's expectations were that they could get Akali or Sylas in their next rotation. But then, of course, Fnatic surprised them by locking in both. G2 then used this as an opportunity to lock in Gragas. It seems that in the last week, or during playoffs in Europe rather, Gragas has risen very heavily in priority and is just considered a very strong champion. I think he offers a lot of AP damage, which means that it also gives you options to go for the AD mid laner if you want, should there actually be some available. You know, we've been seeing a lot of things like Renekton mid lane as well. Sometimes in the LPL we even see things like Kled mid, Pantheon mid to certain players, but like Irelia as well. So there's a lot of AD mid laners that can be played. And so by going for the Gragas, it gives you flexibility and options in your draft if you want to get a little bit more AD in your comp. Fnatic, and then of course they also grabbed themselves the Kled. This was something that G2 found a lot of success with last week when they played up against Fnatic. It's a pretty safe blind pick, it does well into a lot of matchups, and as long as they ban some of those difficult matchups away, then they're feeling pretty confident. Fnatic then round things out with the Xayah, one of the strongest AD carries, and again on patch 9.16, and something that European AD carries value a lot, so that makes a lot of sense. Fnatic then choose to ban away the Syndra and the Ezreal. Now, the Ezreal makes a lot of sense because Pyke is always going to look to roam, so Ezreal is a very safe AD carry that can be left alone in the 1 versus 2, and it avoids any potential collapses. So that ban makes sense. The Syndra one surprised me a little bit because expectations are that this Akali is going mid lane, and they ban the Syndra to suggest, obviously, to take it away from Caps, but it could also be to deny it from bot lane. Pyke Syndra bot could potentially be something that G2 was thinking about and could be very strong. So, but the last time we saw G2 play Syndra was last week, and it was put mid lane for Caps. So I think that Fnatic were aware and prepared and basically just didn't want to give this one away to G2. I don't have full context onto the full reasoning behind the Syndra, but it's either, in my head, because of Syndra Pyke as a potential bot lane, or it's because they actually consider Syndra a pretty good matchup into the Akali. Now, I don't know what that matchup looks like. In my head, I could see that being at level 6 quite Akali favored, but early levels it might be a little bit painful, and there might be a lot of gank setup, especially with the Gragas in the 2v2 mid. So they just wanted to take that off the board. Either way, I think that the Syndra removal from G2 is generally always a pretty safe thing to do. So then G2, they actually ban away the Thresh. Now, even though Hylissang didn't have the best Thresh performance last week, G2 still respect it enough that they feel the need to take it off the board. And they also banned the Shen. Now, this was where some of the surprises came through, because last week they very regularly banned away the Jax as a direct counter to the Kled, because they knew it was something that Bwipo does play. So they then leave it open, and this then gives Fnatic the option to lock it in, alongside the Leona. Now, the Leona, I think, is strong against things like Pyke, especially early levels, because of the raw amount of resistances that she gets from her W. She's been getting, like, small buffs over time, and I think that it provides much-needed engage and utility that right now Fnatic's composition is lacking. I think it gives you a very strong 2 versus 2 bot lane that you can very easily play around, which is also something Fnatic like to do. And I think that it enables you to match up against most things that try to get drafted into this. So things like Lucian Draven, I'm not saying that this matchup becomes easy for Fnatic, but I think that there is potential to make plays. G2 then lock in Lucian LeBlanc. LeBlanc is a very well-known strong matchup into the Akali. You can generate a lot of pressure, very easy to get priority, and you can set up plays because the chains will reveal Akali when she's in the Shroud. So considered a pretty solid matchup, and it's also just a champion that Caps is very good at. And then, of course, the Lucian paired up with Pyke gives you strong 2 versus 2. But I think that in this matchup, Lucian may not have been the strongest pick, mainly because even though it gives you a lot of mobility and you can dodge out from the Leona CC lockdown, I think that your short range makes it easier for Leona to land her crowd control. And I also think that against the Xayah Leona lane with a Pyke, you don't have a lot of power. Also, you can see forming from G2's comp, it doesn't really have the best scaling options. It spikes pretty hard in the mid game, and it also has pretty strong lanes. But if they fall behind, then they get outscaled pretty hard. Xayah, with her range and bonus attack speed that she gets on her abilities, on top of the fact that she's going to itemize heavily towards crit, will be doing a lot more damage, and it will be easier to play in teamfights late into the game. Jax will outscale Kled on a side lane, Akali will outscale LeBlanc on a side lane, and while Fnatic's teamfighting arguably might not be the strongest, they have Leona to force engages, and I think the Sylas is like very versatile. So Fnatic have like a lot of options in their draft. They have pretty solid laners as well, and I feel like that they give themselves a lot of freedom in terms of how they want to play the game. Whereas G2, they very specifically need to be finding picks in the early game, and then with their picks and power, they need to maintain strong wave control in order to set up vision into enemy jungle to then catch people as they rotate between waves, and enemy junglers is trying to get camps. You're constantly looking for picks with all the mobility that you have with things like LeBlanc, Pyke, and the burst damage from Gragas. So I think for G2, it's very important that they get ahead early, which of course from G2's perspective is not that difficult. But again, I think it's harder because I think even though LeBlanc is a good matchup into Akali is still a very difficult champion to kill in lane. I think that Xayah Leona doesn't necessarily lose this 2v2 bot very hard. And I think that Jax, I think is supposed to be weak against Kled in the early laning phase. But I don't know enough about the matchup to say for sure. All I do know is that Jax once you get to around level 6, level 11, you start winning that matchup pretty hard. Because you've got to remember that a lot of Kled's damage comes from his W, which always happens when the moment he engages you, because you don't get to activate it. It's just whenever you engage in combat, right? So all Jax has to do is save his E for when that comes out, and then Kled has no damage left. And then you get all these bonus resistances as well, and because of the short cooldown on your leap, Kled doesn't have the ability to escape from you. So I feel like at around level 6, Jax should just win this matchup. There's very little that the Kled can do, even if you get a lot of jungle support. So that's what I think happens. Would Kai'Sa have been better than the Lucian? Potentially. I'm not really sure how the Kai'Sa pike lane looks like. It would definitely give them a couple more scaling options, but it's one of those situations where, from the perspective of the comp, it makes sense because it just spikes very hard in the mid game. So like you only really need one item on Lucian to be strong. So they can force a lot of fights if they can get the LeBlanc ahead, and it's an easy lane to play around with Prio and mid with LeBlanc. So like I think it makes sense in the perspective of the comp. I just don't think it's necessarily the strongest in this 2 versus 2 matchup. But then again, like, what else are they going to pick? Do you really want to go Draven into Leona? Probably not. You can E away when she tries... Wait. Oh, I can't remember how the Zenith Blade works. But I'm pretty sure that if you time it correctly, you can interrupt the Zenith Blade, because it is considered a dash. So if you time it right with the Draven E, you can interrupt her trying to jump on top of you. But like the R is a lot easier to land. And of course you don't have the same mobility, so... Just looking at questions from chat right now. If you're watching on the YouTube, you have to wait until it attaches to you. Yeah. That's usually why Janna is... Janna is definitely a really strong counter into Leona. That's very true. I think picking LeBlanc into Leona is not optimal. I think it's fine. I think what LeBlanc will struggle to do is kill anyone later on. I think it's really difficult to kill a Xayah. All you can do on LeBlanc is force Xayah's ultimate out, which can be good before a fight. But I think it's pretty difficult for LeBlanc to really one-shot anyone on that team. But from the perspective of the matchup, it makes sense. And if you get ahead early, then it doesn't matter what their comp is or what they're playing. If a LeBlanc has kills, she'll always do damage. First picking Pyke instead of Akali or Xayah? Yes, it does. But again, G2's expectations were that they could get the Sylas or the Akali, or they were assuming they would get Sylas. Because last week, Fnatic would have done Akali Xayah here. Or they would have banned Sylas, because they just didn't play it. Whereas now they added it to their champ pool. So G2 was like, oh, well, that's a little surprising. At least that's my interpretation of it. Yeah, I agree. I think that I think the Leona pick was good into the Pyke in lane. Do you think a higher priority in Gangplank would have made sense? I mean, G2 could have considered going for Gangplank to give them more of a scaling option, but I think that they just really like Kled. Maybe a higher priority, but I don't think you want to play Gangplank into Kled, because I don't think you actually outscale, nor do I think you win lane. I think Gangplank's a pretty bad pick into the Kled. I think, anyway. I'm not entirely sure on that one. Just from what I understand. Anyway, that's all the questions on the draft. Let's have a look. At the game. Do you guys want to listen to? Oh, my nose is a bit runny.
We want fire and fury, we want fights and failures, we want bloodshed. Fnatic G2, this is your moment. Europe is watching, the world is watching, and they are waiting to see just how much you've got.
And what better way to...
Alright, we don't need to listen to me. Anyway. I get a little paranoid. Is this volume okay? Because I recognize that on the VODs, when I'm too close to my microphone, it sounds like really loud and annoying. So I tried to keep my distance a little bit, but I want it to still sound good. All right, cool. So, let's have a quick look at jungle power thing. We can see the Gragas starting on Raptors, suggests that he's looking for a full clear bot. Silas doing the same thing top. This does suggest that Perks and Mickey will have the freedom to get early push, which doesn't really surprise me. LeBlanc will also get priority mid, which means that Silas is just looking to play around the Jacks early, as he may be looking to get an early push. So he'll play for top scuttle. He'll then try to get the push in and then get the wave to bounce back, whereas G2 will look to do the same thing on the bot side of the map. So you can see LeBlanc gets hard prior early. You can see Bwipo has the push in top lane as well. Bot lane is actually a little more even than that. Mickey's got to be really careful. I was actually quite surprised that Hylissang started with E rather than Q. But I do think it's it's a pretty solid idea. So they get level 2 first, so they want to try and all in. And then Mickey dies. So the thing about Pyke, pretty squishy early on. So the thing here is this minion gives this duo level 2. So they want to try and use their level advantage to punish them. Now I wonder if Perks was aware of it, whereas Mickey wasn't, because you can see he lands the hook, and if they're still level 1, they probably kill Hylissang here. But then he immediately stuns, and Mickey doesn't take... I'm not sure what Mickey takes. Does he even skill anything? He just flashes away. So he doesn't take E or W. If he'd taken W here and used it, he may have lived. But yeah, it's good from Hylissang. He Qs first, then he follows it up with the E. Mickey probably should have flashed a little bit earlier. But because Hylissang and Reckless get level 2, and like Leona has Leona procs Aftershock here. I mean, so does Mickey. Wait, no, wait. Huh, maybe it was on cooldown. Did he proc it earlier in the lane? Yeah, he doesn't get it there either. It must have been way earlier than that. I'm not sure when he used it. Oh well. Anyway, he didn't have Aftershock in this trade, which also didn't help, whereas Hylissang did, so he was just tankier. Oh, you can see though, this is pretty big. So Mickey's doing his best to get out of vision, right? Because the moment he's out of vision, his health starts regenerating. So in the event that there's a ward in here, he sweeps to deny the vision so that he's still in darkness. But there's a small delay on when the health regen actually kicks in, and it took too long. So Fnatic draw first blood. Really bad for G2's duo. But of course, Jankos is on the bot side of the map. Perks is obviously quite far extended in the lane, and Hylissang doesn't have Ignite, so they go in on this. But this is where remember what I was talking about? Short range Lucian makes it easier for Leona to set up this. So he uses the cleanse on the Leona Q, but then of course he still gets rooted afterwards, but because you used cleanse, the CC duration is lower, so he's able to walk away. And then Jankos... Perks even flashes for that. Oh, he thinks his W won't do enough damage. Oh, wait. 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 Yeah, he... Okay, I didn't see that the first time round. Did not see that the first time round. Oh wait, no, was it just delayed? I think it's delayed. Because look, now he's here. Oh, I swear he flashes. He does flash. He's moving here. No. It's a spectator bug. He flashes forward. It's a spectator bug. It's fine, everyone. He doesn't flash in space. Perks is saved. He's fine. Yeah. No. Because look, he E's here. Wait, yeah, he E's, and then he flashes. Yeah. So he does flash. It's fine. It's just a bit of a spectator delay. You're all good, Perks. It's fine. He didn't need to flash because his W would have gotten the kill, but he wasn't sure. So now, of course, the thing for Reckless is he can just TP back into lane, whereas Mickey can't. Oh, Reckless. So they stay here. Bomb. Wait. Oh, shit. Okay, Jankos, this guy's so big brain. So he sees this minion walking in front of Reckless and recognizes that this Q isn't going to hit. So he smites it. It misses anyway. You can see it grabs this minion. But holy moly, the awareness from Jankos. I mean, like, it's a small thing, but that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool anyway. So he misses the Q anyway, as you can see, because Reckless sidesteps it. But that smite is pretty cool. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. And then Reckless, of course, because he has the feathers, is able to find the kill onto Perks. Whoop. And then Jankos dies to Hylissang, who's now picking up all these kills. And then Jack shows... Oh, Wonder! Ugh. Wonder should win this, though, no? He has red buff. Guess cooldowns? I'm convinced Wonder wins that. Oh, Broxah was coming. I didn't see that. Alright, Broxah. Wonder has more awareness than I do. I'm convinced in this situation, though, he wins this 1v1. I'm like, if I'm Wonder, I'm taking this 1v1. I reckon I win it. But he's like, there's a jungler coming. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. You definitely don't win then. Yeah, so here he comes back to base with the completed... he comes back onto the map with a completed support item, which is pretty good for him. However, obviously, it doesn't have all the wards in it. It just has a lot of health because he has to complete the quest before he gets all those additional wards. Meanwhile, Mickey is 0-2, still level 2, so massively behind in XP, and Perks doesn't have TP in the lane. So he takes him well. But of course, because they got that kill onto Reckless, at the end of the day, it's fine. The problem Wonder now has is because he TP'd down when the wave was crashing into the tower. So look, you can see here, it's just underneath the tower, which means that the wave, the blue side wave, starts stacking up, and look, the ping comes down. He's like, I need to base, because this wave is screwed. And it starts slow pushing towards Bwipo, which is way better for him. Now the only advantage that Wonder has is that he's going to get back to top lane first, but because the wave is slow pushing, Bwipo can probably still catch this wave. Depends how quickly Wonder gets there. But this is like really bad for Wonder, the wave being like that. Meanwhile, mid lane, nothing has happened. Oh! Okay. As I was saying, mid lane, nothing has happened. So look at this. Look at this. Wonder lost like what, 2-3 waves, maybe even 4. No, he's probably lost 2 or 3 waves, and Bwipo's gonna get all of them. So now the best thing, which is smart from Jankos. Let's actually track what Jankos does here. So he does his blue buff because he hasn't done it yet, and then he passed towards top. And like, under the assumption that his plan is to set up a gank top lane because he sees a wave stacking, or whether it's just to cover mid, like it achieves both. Like he's hanging around mid lane so he can offer assistance should it be needed. He's getting a little bit of... Oh, he's going to steal the enemy raptors as well. Holy moly, he's so big brain. He's so aware because he knows that Broxah will have started on these, so he's able to steal them away and get all that bonus XP, and then he's in position to gank top lane as well. Holy moly, how is Jankos so smart? He's so clever. Such good awareness. That's cool. So then it makes the most sense to actually set up a dive here, or threaten a dive. They want to zone Bwipo away from all this farm because if he gets it, this guy is massively far ahead over this guy. So this is smart. Broxah then answers by going bot lane. Now the problem Broxah has is like he's going to lose a lot of XP, and then Jankos should be able to steal these away because they should respawn relatively soon. Problem is they can't actually dive because he's full HP, so as you can see he now has a whole level advantage. He's going to get all those extra farm, and it's a really sad day. Oh, he could have stolen them as well, but he wants to get back to base and then pick up his own stuff. So in terms of tempo, Jankos is ahead. I'm not supposed to use that word, but he's ahead on tempo right now. So he can look for a gank well before Broxah can, and he's been able to spend his gold before Broxah has. So by Broxah looking for that play bot, it puts him behind, basically. To be fair, Broxah, it looks like he stole those away as well. I wasn't tracking what Broxah was doing. We should watch what Broxah does. Let's watch what Broxah does. So after his gank in mid lane, Where does he actually come from, actually, after his reset? Oh, he doesn't reset. He just... Okay, so obviously he comes straight to bot lane after the reset to look for a potential kill. He then looks for a maybe dive, but then recognizes Buppo is too low, and this guy's resetting anyway. He's hanging around now. He spends a little too much time hanging around, I think. But he wants to just cover Buppo so that he's safe, which is fair enough. And then he looks for a gank mid, which is also fine. And he should be pretty aware himself that these are respawning soon. And, I mean, he just got information on it. So they end up actually just trading, which is fine. So the map gets split. So this also gives information that Buppo should, that Jankos should be topside. And then Broxer immediately looks for gank bot, which I don't think he should have done. I don't think he should have looked for a gank. I can understand why, because they have no summoners. But I think it's more important for him to either base and then clear out his camps, or steal the Krugs away. He shouldn't start Drake now. Wow, he's really committed to making a gank bot happen, isn't he? I admire his commitment, but it's not gonna work. So you can see like a whole level difference. Oh, Akali's actually down here as well. So the reason why Fnatic can get away with this is because Nemesis reset. Did he reset first? We gotta go back. We gotta check. Yeah, he reset first. See, so he reset here. So he comes back out onto the map first. Then the LeBlanc resets, and of course Nemesis has TP. So even if Caps now catches this wave and pushes it out, and then starts threatening mid tower, Nemesis can get back there because he has teleport. So the reason why they can zone this trio off is because they have more people, and Caps can't join. Then of course the minions start to run out. Look at how tanky Hylissang is, because W on Leona is broken. It really is. It's actually so strong. That's why I love Leona so much. She's so useful even if she's behind. She's like a meat shield. And a very good one. So he now... Wait, he skips his Gromp? Has he actually done his Gromp yet this game? I really don't want to go back and check. But if it makes sense if he hasn't actually done Gromp yet to skip it, because he gets more XP from doing these. So it's better for him to just go up there and do it because of the rubber banding XP in the jungle thing. So Mickey, look, you can see it. So look. Notice here, there's 3 of them. This is a way in which G2 can guarantee priority mid lane, and it gives a lot of safety, and they can just control the whole mid quadrant. Obviously they then transition it through to bot, but they play through mid first, the 2 of them. Very common for both teams. Both these teams do that. Oh, good gank. Very good gank. So again, like, bear in mind that all stems from here. Like, after they reset, they first transition through mid. They then use the priority, because, like, Nemesis can't here. He's very aware that Mickey probably isn't alone, and LeBlanc can very quickly follow. So G2 guarantee control over the river, because they guarantee control and their vision hasn't been lost in river. They know that they're... this path through the jungle is safe, and then Mickey stops them from approaching, which means Jankos can slide in from behind. The setup for this was really good. And then Brox is resetting. So again, remember earlier when we said like Jankos was ahead on tempo in the jungle? Like, this is where it like culminates. Resetting is really important. Right now I think Jankos is playing the early game much better than Broxer is. So I wonder if they're going to take this. Yeah. I don't know if this is still the first Gromp. I can't remember if he actually took it or not. Does anyone in chat know? Does anyone know if he actually took this? Oh, hey, Sharks. What's up? What is that emote? Sharks hands? Botlane took Gromp once at least. Okay, cool. If botlane took it, then that's actually the best thing to do. Broxer now hits level 6. Wait, so what's Wonder doing in all this? Where was Wonder? Oh, I remember this play. This made me sad. So Wonder came bot to help with this play. And I'm not really sure why. I think they were considering setting up a dive, but he wastes so much time coming bot. Because the wave is also slowly pushing towards top, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't have teleport, so we can't TP top, which means the Bwipo can just hard push this wave. And sure, G2 gained full control of a bot enemy jungle, but the Jax is only getting stronger, and he outscales. So Wonder's early lane got screwed because he TP'd bot lane. And then he gets screwed again because he roams all the way bot. Look, he only just hit 7, and Bwipo's 8. This is done. It's over. Oh, it's so over. He can't do anything. Check Twitter, Vedi. All right, real quick. Editing my vlog, and I don't know how my colleagues part with me a lot, especially poor Vedius. Poor guy just wants to eat his Pringles in peace. Alright, I'll watch it at the end of the VOD review. I'll save it. But I'll watch it at the end of the VOD review. Alright. He was already losing the early trades? Yeah, I mean, he will. But, like, you gotta remember that Jax already outscales in this matchup. Jax is already going to win this matchup pretty hard. Falling behind in it only makes things even worse. So, Fnatic now guarantee themselves priority in the side lane before he's even hit things like the Trinity Force, which is why this is so bad for G2 right now. Now, Jankos has a couple options. Option number one is he can try and heavily gank top lane to try and close the gap again, so that Wonder can like equalize on experience, get a kill, more gold under his belt. But considering you're going to get outscaled anyway, the other option, and arguably better one, is just to invest on the other side of the map. So try and get the Lucian and Pyke ahead, so that they can then translate their leads into other places. So because if you can get Perks and Mickey into a position where they can swap, then you actually take Wonder out of the matchup that he's already losing, and you put Bwipo into a losing matchup along with having Wonder in a losing matchup. So like it's better for G2 overall if they can swap. Whereas for Fnatic, they just want to keep the game state the same way for as long as possible. They know that if they keep scaling, they're going to be really strong. The moment Nemesis has Gunblade, he's going to be feeling really comfortable in this 1 versus 1. Obviously, I think LeBlanc versus Akali gets to a point where it becomes a lot more about skill matchup. Once you get out of the laning phase, there are a lot more skill shots. There's a lot of mobility between the two champions that you have to take into account. And so Fnatic is basically just happy keeping the things the way that they are. Because Reckless also knows that he's going to outscale. So G2, the pressure is on them. They need to find another lead. This is where I think... yeah, so like this is where things get even worse. So bear in mind, if Wonder gets this kill, this is huge. So he gets a lot of damage here. He uses his ult here. And then Bwipo jumps away. And at this point, he should just disengage. But then cooldowns come back up and he gets smashed. Oh, imagine, look at this. Imagine if Bwipo wasn't level 8, or if Wonder was, the difference it would have made. That's so sad. Meanwhile, gank happens mid as well. So, like, things are doomed right now for G2. Fnatic's looking great. Their whole draft plan was to have, like, strong solo lanes. Well, I mean, they got Akali early, so they're always going to have strong solo lanes. Caps just wants to push out mid, but he doesn't have proper support. Mickey's not in a position to help him just yet, and Mickey's not level 6 either. He does what he can, but it's not enough. If Mickey had 6, maybe they could have done something there, but he wasn't. Okay, so we now have to track the junglers. I actually kind of want to see what Broxer was doing here. So, because we cut to top, we didn't get to see what happened bot. So they tried to zone the duo away for a really long time. Broxer then paths bot to assist. None of his camps are up, so he doesn't have to worry about anything. Pings came down because they weren't sure if there was vision in there. He doesn't have sweeper either, so he drops a control ward. And then he just paths around and ganks mid. Yeah. Caps should have... Caps wanted to push out the wave and reset. And he overextends and dies, basically. He should have known the Brox was bot side anyway, because he got information here. They now know. You know Brox is bot side. You could argue that Jankos maybe should have pathed mid and helped his mid laner push out so that he could reset. Or you can argue that, I mean, Caps doesn't need to reset, right? Oh no, he does. He could do the reset. He has 1200 gold. Yeah, he could do the reset. So things, Giga bad for G2, Giga great for Fnatic. I think they outscale, and they already have an early game gold lead. I mean, I think this is just a mistake from Caps. You can understand what he tried to do, and he shouldn't have done it. Or he should have had jungle assistance. I can't tell you what answer is the right one right now. I think Jankos could have gone mid lane instead of gone to his Krugs. But I can't say for sure. Oh, he actually steals away blue as well. Well, I suppose top lane just died, so he has all the freedom in the world to do whatever he wants. Jankos immediately passed that. Sorry, I'm yawning a lot. This happens when I talk a lot. So he passed up the top lane. Yeah, he ends up doing there's nothing he can do. So Gragas just goes straight to top. They know he's top lane. He wants to kill Bwipo because he's overstayed top and he has no mana. Jankos is forced to flash, and LeBlanc starts making away. They can dive this because Wonder has his passive, and now Bwipo's overstaying. So, a couple mistakes there. I'm not sure why Bwipo overstays actually. Yeah, see, he should just reset. After he gets the kill, he pushes in the wave. Does he stay for a plate? Oh yeah, he stays for a plate. And then he bases, and then we don't get to see what happens after that. And him staying for a plate when it's just about to fall is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But his recall seems to be interrupted. Oh, he goes for another plate. Oh, no, he doesn't. It's still 3. I thought it was 2. Oh, he almost kills Broxah there. And then Caps gets Prio, so he finally gets to roam, his first roam of the game. He gets a kill. And Bwipo just overstays. But he has TP, so it's not the end of the world. He can just catch top wave. Wonder will not have TP advantage, though. So G2 should be looking to set up a dive bot. Make a play for Drake. That's what they should be thinking anyway. So TP comes through bot. Bear in mind, Bwipo is level 9, while Wonder is level 7. Which is, feels bad, man. I mean, like, really feels bad, man. Oh, and then bot dives 2 versus 2. Yikes. Will we get a full replay of that? Brox is hanging around bot as well. Because again, expectations are... I mean, he has nothing to be taken... There's nothing for him to take on the top side of the map anyway. Brox's other option is to try and set up a dive onto top lane, but there's no point. Because his camps are starting to respawn on bot side and Drake is up, it just makes a lot more sense for Brox to be bot. So him being here makes sense to me. Helsing then dives. Ooh, this was unfortunate. So I like how Nemesis, second time, maybe even the third, where he's pushed in mid just as Caps was resetting. Looks for a roam. Roams down towards the bot side of the map. And they threaten a dive. Perks has no mana, so of course they go for this. But then Mickey's already back onto the map because he has Mobies. And the Gragas is here as well. So they get baited in a little bit. Gragas one-shotting the Xayah. Allows G2 to come back. Definitely a bit of a messy game. I think Fnatic could have just used their Prio to take Drake here, I think. Surely, right? Because if you think about it, they take this plate. Perks is too low. Caps is missing from mid. And then at this point, like, after they take this plate, or they don't even have to go for this plate. They just take this one here, and then after this, I would say go to Drake. Because Perks is too low. He can't fight. You're guaranteed numbers advantage. You have all your sums up. Nemesis is 9, and he's here as well. You can just walk back up to Drake, and you can force it. Instead, they go for a dive. Which obviously has more risks associated, especially when Wonder has TP too. That's the important thing to remember. Wonder has TP. I guess they think they're fine because Bwipo is putting pressure on him under tower, but he's now forced to TP top. So I think that dive was pretty sketch. Wait, what happened? Okay, so the Interrupt Nemesis is back. Oh, of course, Caps is prio here, and Nemesis is just walking face first into him. Rather than go up through blue, he goes through the way that is warded for him, but Caps knows he's coming. Oh man, if he lands that chain, he kills him. So, bad pathing, and then Broxer just tries to help him out. He's like, I'm coming! I'm dead! So Fnatic made that really worse for themselves. And then G2 swapped to top lane. Well, I guess they want to get out of the 2v2 bot, because they're probably going to lose that tower anyway. And now he's overextended top lane. Holy moly, this game is actually so chaotic. Jeez. Like, there's a lot of lack of respect for teleport in this game. Because, I mean, so Perks thinks he's safe because he has Gragas here and Pyke is roaming top. And even though it's just Hylissang, you think, oh, okay, this is fine. But both Nemesis and Reckless both have teleport. So this is not just a 1 versus 3. This is a 3 versus 3. With which Fnatic have priority over because Hylissang got to the river first. And then Nemesis! So again here, look who has priority mid lane. So you don't know what happens in this part of the jungle. Yeah. So we're 15 minutes in. Very exciting game. Very chaotic game though. I think like both teams have a lot of the right ideas, but there is a bit of a disrespect towards teleports coming out, and we're seeing a couple of execution errors come out as well. Like positioning on the map, like we saw Caps not respect the fact that jungler should have been bot side of the map and could have ganked in mid lane and he dies. There we just saw Nemesis go through his part of the jungle, not respect where they were, ends up dying. So like both teams, game one, a little shaky, a little messy. Couple of mistakes coming out here and there, but at the end of the day, the big thing for Fnatic is like Bwipo secured top tower, so it ends up working out in their favor. He then secures bot tower as well. So even though these skirmishes, like that, this is what I said after game one, but Fnatic is converting all the skirmish and chaos into actual objectives. And now he's on the bot side of the map. Nemesis has no teleport. What is going on? What? Okay, so Bwipo has priority in bot river. Kled has just reached the wave and has no TP. Mickey goes for a play onto Reckless. Of course, he's going to use his ultimate. So then Caps gets... What is Caps doing? Oh. He literally uses everything inside Reckless's ulti. Okay then. Yankos throws out his ult. So like this is fantastic for Fnatic, because now they found themselves a kill in mid. Wonder is forced to come top, or mid rather, so Nemesis gets to push out top because Lucian can't stay there anymore. They can't kill Hylissang because Leona. And then Bwipo pushes that bot as well. So then they can group up mid, use the priority that they get to start Drake, and secure the objective. And as I'm alluding to, Fnatic, good control over their sideways. Yeah, and again, Fnatic turn another pick into another objective. And then, ooh, they force another fight mid. So what happens here? So the bot lane of G2 move into top river to clear it out. And then they don't take the safe way. Okay, so the thing is, notice here how Xayah gets to the wave first. Whoever gets to the wave first has priority. That's just how it works. And if you have priority, your members get to move in more aggressively. But Lucian thinks that he can contest this priority because he has 2 people behind him, but so does Reckless. So they go in, and then they lose. And then, of course, Broxer shows up and cleans up the kill. So again, lack of respect from G2. Because, like, again, I think you can understand why he's doing it, right? Because from his perspective, he's like, I'm a Lucian, I have pretty much the same items as you. Yeah, of course he's behind in gold, but like, I'm still Lucian, so at this point in the game, I have a level up. I can probably go toe-to-toe with Xayah, that's fine. And he thinks because he has 2 people behind him, he can fight for this priority. But Hylissang and Nemesis are like, well, no, you can't. We're also all in you. And then Silas is there as well, while LeBlanc is bot and Kled is top. So because Fnatic invests multiple members mid, this does give a window for Wonder to siege onto that top tower, which is what he's going to do. You can't spend 4 people mid and hope to get away with it for free. Reckless is forced to flash there because he has no mana, and it looked like he didn't have any mana for ult. So they're able to hold top tower for now, and now the duo hanging around bot. Lucian resetting. Again, sorry about the yawning. It happens when I speak a lot. So what's normally supposed to happen in these situations is when jungler hangs around one of the side laners and the side laner engages, that side laner dies, but this is a level 11 Jack, so Trinity Force. So he 1v2s. And it all comes back to the early laning phase, you know? So G2 with their comp, they really had to find another game lead. They failed to do it. They've made a couple of mistakes in terms of respecting enemies' position where they have prio and TPs as well. Wonder just face checks into Nemesis. Honestly, like, pretty weak game 1 from G2. Like, Fnatic have made mistakes, but I think their draft gave them way more options, and like they came pretty well prepared in game 1. G2 definitely weren't expecting the Sylas. I don't think that Broxah did anything like spectacular this game. If like we saw that, I think Yankus out jungled him pretty heavily in the early game. But now G2 are kind of limited on options. They have to hope that Fnatic make mistakes and then they can find these picks, you know, like this. But it's super hard because it's Xayah and Leona. And they just don't die. They just don't die. So, we're approaching 20 minutes in. What do these teams want to do? Let's think about it. So, Baron spawns in just a second. Fnatic can do Baron. It's not super quick. They have one mountain. But I think the main objective they want to take is mid tower. For them to take mid tower, the best thing for them to do is push bot all the way out and top all the way out. Basically, I can actually use this to explain. So the general principle is this tower, this one, is difficult to siege, right? Because it's protected by these walls. Unlike this one, right? There's like this one can be attacked this way and this way. So like these outer towers, this one's like harder and this one's harder, but point still stands. The side lane towers are typically easier to siege because the risk of a collapse is greater, right? Whereas in the mid lane, because of how much room there is and how much defensive, like how many walls there are around it, it's naturally a much harder tower to take down. So in Fnatic's case, because they don't have like the strongest siege comp as it were, what they want to do is they want their mid and support here with jungle. And they want to push this one all the way to here. And they want to push this one all the way to here. And then they want to collapse through the jungle. And they want to create a dive. This is the basic idea. Because the idea should be that top is catching and mid is catching these waves. This is also why it's really important that you push them really far. What you don't want to happen is these guys to only take one wave and then move up, so that they can just match you as you're making the rotation. You need to force them to catch these waves here, so that you have time to make this roam up. This is what's super important. So this is what I would expect Fnatic to be looking to do right now. Alternatively, I don't know if the Rift Herald is up. Or they have it. They do have the Rift Herald. The easier thing to do is have one person sit on a side and then just throw the Rift Herald down mid. But yeah, Rift Herald is obviously the easiest way to do it. So you can see Nemesis isn't overextending because Bwipo doesn't have the push. So they're actually collapsing first because they're collapsing early because they reset. So G2 already had their waves pushed out or in awkward positions. So they get to collapse on mid first, which means they actually get to take advantage, and Xayah resets. And so does Broxah. So this is pretty great for G2. They might actually get this tower first. Pardon me. And again, look at the positioning of Wonder. Threatening a flank, but of course because Nemesis is here, he can't reliably threaten the same flank. And then Hylissang goes in. So they force an engage to get G2 off the tower. Now G2 ideally want to catch their sideways, which is why Wonder is going down now. But because they have enough members to match, Fnatic can't threaten a dive. So Wonder has to be careful because he recognizes he doesn't control the bot side of the jungle. But of course Fnatic have to concede this for top side. Now would be a great time to use the Herald, because G2's bot lane just reset, so they should be able to secure this one. So yeah, this is the other method outside of like setting up the side waves. You can just throw Rift Herald down. And members had to go deal with Bwipo bot lane as well, so because G2 is still catching waves, they can use this, but now they should trade this for mid tower as well, because they took both mid tower and Drake, so they can now keep pushing. I don't think they necessarily want to dive. Oh, never mind, yes they do, because this is where he does, this is, so this is the thing Draco's tried to talk about when he tweeted about it. People don't appreciate how difficult this actually is. Basically, you're animation cancelling your Q with E. For those that don't know, this is basically impossible because there's like one frame with which you can ani cancel it. Other than that, like what normally happens is it's Q into E, but you can do them at the same time, which is what Mickey is doing here. See, he does them both at the same time. But the reason why this is important is because it basically means you can't flash. It's like a perfect stun. Now, of course, he flashes over the wall. He flashes preemptively. But what I mean by that is, so if he lands a hook in the conventional way and then does E, the stun duration or the lockdown of the hook allows people to flash out of the follow-up from the E. Whereas this one, if the hook lands before you flash, you'll be stunned and you die. So he's forced to flash. I can't believe that hits. I actually can't believe that. I don't think they believed it at first. Yeah, and then they saw it. He's like, oh, he's got no flash. So yeah, it's a pretty insane pike move. It's pretty insane. Really difficult to do. I would recommend you try it in practice duel. We all tried to do it for hours in NA when we were there for MSI. It's really impossible. Okay, I'm not really sure what happened there. Oh, Perk's back's on a ward and he doesn't realize. So they flash on top of him. Him dying here is definitely unlucky. Because now they gain immediate mid-pro and they can go straight for Baron because they have numbers advantage. And then Caps kills himself. Yep. They don't lose this Baron. They can't lose this Baron. So, if you've never seen G2 Esports before and you're watching this game, you're all like, what? This is the best team in the world? Because this is a great example of like some of the flaws that G2 have as a team. Number one, based especially on what we saw last week, it feels like that this is a team that takes time to warm up. I don't know what it is, but when they play at like 5 p.m, they are not playing well. Caps had a terrible first game. They didn't respect teleports. They have overextended. They've made a lot of mechanical blunders. Bot lane has died 2 versus 2, twice, I think, in this game. Like, so many errors on the side of G2. So many errors. And like, you can see that from a macro perspective, like, they recognize the windows with which they could siege mids, and things like this. So, like, as a team, they have a pretty good understanding of where they can move on the map, and I think a lot of that is because Jankos comes with, like, he's a very smart jungler. But this has been a terrible first game for G2. They looked awful. And Fnatic haven't really had to do much. I think Bwipo played the lane pretty well. I think Reckless and Hillsang showcase why they are such a fantastic duo. Nemesis, I loved his roams. I think he used a lot of really good windows when Caps was basing because he doesn't have teleport, and he took advantage of the fact that he could get to lane first, and he just picked smart reset timers. I don't think Broxah did a huge amount this game, I think this was much more along what the laners were doing. But honestly, just like really poor game from G2 in my opinion. Very, very poor game. So again, like it's games like this that make you go, "Oh, G2 the best team in the world." No. And like I think part of it comes down to the fact that G2's drafting sometimes puts them in a corner of their own. Because again, if we think back to the draft, like the first pick Pyke, the early priority on both Gragas and Kled, they don't ban away the counter picks. They then lock in Lucian LeBlanc and basically saying, okay, we have to get ahead early. But in order to get ahead early, you have to play near perfectly. And they didn't play near perfectly. We had Wonder TPing bot. We had Mickey dying at level 2. We had Caps getting ganked in mids. Like, in order to make this comp work, you have to execute upon it perfectly. And in Game 5, we'll see G2 do that, and they have the potential to do that, and they look very good when they do that. But when you're drafting these comps, there's an expectation that you have to perform at a certain level, and if you don't perform at that level, then you look much, much weaker than what your ceiling should be. And so G2 got punished. Whereas Fnatic, like, they have a pretty safe draft. Like, all of their players were very consistent. I think Reckless's high deaths was much more due to the fact that he was focused this game. Like, you know, him dying underneath this tower was just pretty unlucky that he flashed to the point at which this hook was landing. Like, he also TP'd in lane and then Yanko stays around. Like, I think Reckless has played fine. He's just also been the main target of G2's aggression. It's like, Fnatic have played a very solid game. Like, again, they've made a couple of mistakes of their own. But yeah, I think this has been a lot more about them having a much safer draft, them being good at League of Legends, and just not making that many mistakes. I think the game should end soon. Because now Fnatic's just waiting for the next Baron to spawn. So they will maintain prior over mid and top. They don't have TP anywhere, so they probably won't send anyone bot lane. Oh yeah. So this is where it kind of falls apart. Oh, it's a Leona. Look at how tanky LEC is. Oh, my voice cracked a little bit there. Look, he's like tanking 3 people. He's like, I don't care. You shall not kill me. Thou shalt not pass. Rah. Look at how much damage this Lucian does. Bung bum. Look at that. He's not taking any damage. Oh, that's a really good flash from Hillsang as well. Avoids the execute. So he stays alive, absorbs even more damage. He drops in the end, but his job is done. He got his CC out. He bought time for his damage dealers to do what they were supposed to do. Great play from Hillsang. This is why you face check on things like Leona. You'd think the whip was overextended, but nope, it's just a bait perks. Goodbye. Oh yeah, I remember this. Cap's thinking, I can one-shot him. No, I can't. Phantom Dancer shield comes through. Reckless walks away. Baron spawns in 20. Disaster for G2. Yeah, pretty bad game overall from G2. Yankers play like a god. But he was about the only one this game. Wonder is defendable in his poor game, but then he also went for a 1v1 where he killed himself. So, but yeah, if anyone wants to be concerned, like, this is one of the big weaknesses of G2. They often draft comps that require mechanical excellence, and if they do not execute perfectly, then they look really bad. And what I mean by mechanical excellence is, like, this draft required a very specific win condition, and that was get ahead early. And so, in order to get ahead early, you have to make the ganks work. You can't waste teleports. You can't you can't fumble anywhere, because if you do, then your very narrow win condition becomes even narrower, and you basically get to a point in the game where you rely on the enemy team to make mistakes. And Fnatic had a composition that matched G2 in terms of the early laning phase and outscaled them later on. So the fact that G2 misplayed so much early means that Fnatic just became stronger than them at every point in the game, which is also part of why G2 couldn't convert any of the skirmish trades into actual objectives. And they got punished so readily. Fnatic now just taking their time. 3 people get drawn up towards top. I don't think Reckless and Broxer should be here, though. Oh, Yango's died somewhere as well, but it doesn't matter. Game's over. Boop, 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 boop. This is the thing about Fnatic. One of the biggest strengths of Fnatic is just like they're just a super solid team. Like they understand the game pretty well. They are very strong on specific champions, and I think that if you don't shut them down hard in the early game, then they can challenge like the best teams in the world in the mid game. So I think that's what makes Fnatic a really strong team. I just think the difference is that Fnatic is never going to draft a comp like you just saw from G2. So, that does it for Game 1. General thoughts were terrible game from G2. Really bad Game 1. Fnatic just played solid. I think they were pretty reliable, pretty consistent. There were a couple of misplays here and there where I think that, again, they didn't respect where they had priority or like the enemy's potential position on the map, so they ended up getting picked off every now and then. But overall, very solid game from Fnatic. Great way to start the series off. Ended the game relatively cleanly. Yeah, and I can't think of much else to say outside from that. But like we'll keep talking about this throughout the entire series. We'll like keep picking holes and like recognizing like some of the big strengths and weaknesses of both these teams and like how they look coming into Worlds. So that's gonna do it for Game 1. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and I'll see you in game number 2.